Shalom. We are following the Revised Common Lectionary. This is so we are in the year B and doing the fourth Sunday of Advent. So this is B4 Advent B4 in the Common Lectionary, and so I am going to do 2 Samuel 7. So let's get into it. ויהי כי ישב המלך בביתו, והוויה הניח לו מסביב מכל אויביו. Okay. Veyehi, very common form, conjunctive vav. Well, we have the imperfect of the verb to be, so it's being flipped from the imperfect to the perfect action. I would actually probably translate this as and it was. But ki is a conjunction meaning when, so, for. Yashav. So this is in the call perfect. The root is yud shin bet, right? To settle or to sit. They're translating it as dwelling in third person masculine singular. This is the simplest form of any root. Ha-melech, there's the article hey. Melech means king, the root mem lamed chaf. Bebeito, so first bet here is the prepositional bet. It has a shva underneath, so it does not have an article. Beit is the construct form of house, which that's because it has the suffix. So in his house, right? There's a prefix, there's the construct form of the noun, and then there's the suffix. Vahavaya, so conjunctive vav and the tetragrammaton. Heniach, so this is the hefil, the causative form of the word nun vav het, Noach, right? Yona matzam bo manoach, right? Like we talk about Noah and the dove finding a resting place. So it's to rest, to lay down, right? So and God put to rest, laid it down, hiniach lo, for him, prepositional lamed with the suffix third person masculine singular. Mi saviv, so prepositional mem meaning from, or I mean here it's kind of all. I understand the all around. Saviv comes from the root sin bet, which means to turn, right? A sevivon is a top, and this is used a lot, right? Especially in Tehillim, I remember it a lot, but Saviv means around, encircling, right? There's all around. Mi kol, so prepositional mem, kol means all. Oyevav, so oyev, aleph, yud, bet is means an enemy. Oyevav, oyevav, that yud tells you that it is plural. So, well, they're saying it's actually the call participle, oivav, as opposed to being his enemies, those who are antagonistic to him. They're saying it's the participle, which I understand. There's a no vav in the first part, so it's written lacking the first vav there, oy vav. Yeah. Let's look at and see how King James translated it. And it came to pass when the king sat in his house, and the Lord had given him rest round about from all his enemies. Okay. NIV, after the king was settled in his palace. I'm not sure I would have used the word palace. Um, Bait just means house. And the Lord had given him rest from all his enemies around him. Okay. Chabad. And it came to pass when the king dwelt in his house, and the Lord had given him rest round about from all his enemies. Right? Okay, next verse. Vayomer Hamelech El Natan Hanavi Re'ena Anochi Yoshev Bebeit Arazim Va'aron HaElohim Yoshev Betoch HaYeria. Interesting. So Vayomer, again, common form. Vav, it's in the imperfect, getting flipped. By that Vav, that's why it says consecutive imperfect to the perfect. The root here is Aleph Mem Resh, which means to speak, and this is the less harsh way of speaking as opposed to daber. Ha-melech, article hey, and melech means king. El, this is the preposition with the aleph, not ayin. Natan is his name, which means given, right? Natan. Ha-navi, so article, and navi is a prophet, right? The root is a nun bet aleph. And it is written bemilui yud, as Navi always is. Re'eh, so this is in the command form, imperative, right? To see. The root is resh aleph hey, very common root. And na is an interjection. So a lot of times I see it being translated as now. I usually translate it as please. It's an interjection. It's kind of hard to exactly translate. But look now, look here, even look please, maybe. Anochi is the pronoun first person common singular, but it's the more formal way. Ani is the less formal, and anochi is a bit more formal. And anochi is written without a vav, which I think is pretty usual. Yoshev, right? So this is the exact same root, but here it's in the participle. It's in the present tense, written with a vav. The root is yud shin bet, as we had in the previous sentence. Bebeit arazim. So prepositional bet, there's no article here. Beit again is in the construct form with erez, right? Arazim, which are trees, cedar trees, right? So arazim is in the plural, right? Bebeit arazim, in a house of cedar, a house of wood, right? It's one construct, smichut, beit, and arazim. Ve'aron, so conjunctive vav, aron means ark. And that's a pretty common noun. It is in the construct form with ha-Elokim, right? There's the article, which the article on a construct always goes on the last noun in the construct. So we have two, and that's where the article belongs, right? Aron ha-Elokim. Don't make the mistake of thinking that hey is that article is going really on God. It's really going on Aaron, the ark, right? Um, anyway, and Elohim is one of the more common names of God. Yoshev, and again, this time Yoshev is written bechisaron. So exact same word. It's written without the vav. That is the only difference. But if you're keeping track, yeah, the first one is with a vav. The second one is without a vav, which kind of makes sense. You know, the way we darshan milui and chaser, writing fully or lacking, is um, better and worse, kind of. Bet toch hayeria. So bet, prepositional bet, toch meaning midst, inside, right? Hayeria, there's an article, and yeria is actually is in the singular, right? It says, and in the curtain. I mean, yes, they're saying tent curtains, but and yeria really means things that are hanging, right? So you can use your concordance if you want to look at it further, but it is in the singular. Let's see how King James does it. That the king said unto Nathan the prophet, "See now, I dwell in an house of cedar, but the ark of God dwelleth within curtains." Okay. NIV, he said to Nathan the prophet, "Here I am, living in a house of cedar, while the ark of God remains in a tent." I prefer that, a tent, because it is in the singular. Chabad, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, "See now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of God dwells within the curtains." Which, I mean, I do understand that. Sometimes, oftentimes we translate. Um, so in Hebrew, if you're going to say dogs are cute, you would say dog is cute, right? When you're talking in a more general way, whereas in English we use the plural. So either way, very similar meanings. So let's keep on going. Vayomer Natan el Hamelech, kol asher belvavecha, bilvavcha, sorry, lech aseh ki havaya imach. Interesting. Um, so Vayomer, again, very common form, and said, the imperfect is being flipped, just like the previous sentence. Natan is his name. El is the preposition with the aleph. Ha-melech, the king, right? He said to the king. Kol, all. Asher is the pronoun relative, and the pronoun here is being used kind of as a substitute for the present tense of the verb to be. That's why they're inferring that is there. Bilvavecha. So, prepositional bet, levav is one of the ways we say heart, and the ending is the second person masculine singular, and it's masculine here, but later it's going to be turned to feminine, so we'll talk about that. But also levav, this form, generally in Judaism we say that when you speak about um, a pure heart, you say lev with one bet, and when you talk about a heart which has both the good inclination and the bad inclination, you say levav. So this is levav with the two bets. Lech is the command form of to go, like lech lecha when God says to Abraham, "Go," right? Pretty common. I mean, comes up a lot. aseh. The root is ayin sin he, which means to make or to do. Again, in the command form, aseh, lech aseh, go and do, right? Ki, for or because, right, is the conjunction. Havaya, which is the tetragrammaton. Imach, which is what made me say interesting, because im means with, im imcha means with you in the masculine, imach means with you in the feminine. So personally, I mean, this kind of the sentence seems to be talking about David not necessarily doing exactly what he should, it seems to me. But this imach is in the feminine instead of the masculine. And then there's this punctuation samech, which means satum, which means that there is a closed break in the scroll here, kind of a paragraph marker. As opposed to an open break, which is considered a bigger break in the scroll, right? Okay, let's see what King James did with it. And Nathan said to the king, "Go, do all that is in thine heart, for the Lord is with thee." Okay. NIV. Nathan replied to the king. Okay, I don't know. It's they're they're being figurative. Whatever you have in mind, okay? Go ahead and do it, for the Lord is with you. Okay? Go ahead and do it. Okay. They're being very figurative. Chabad. And Nathan said to the king, "All that is in your heart go do, for the Lord is with you." Okay. Next verse. Vayehi balayla hahu, vayehi devar havaya el Natan le'emor. Okay, so vayehi again, like we had in the first sentence. Balayla, so there's the prepositional bet with an article. Laila means night. Hahu, that, right? So hahu it's the pronoun third person masculine singular with an article, but basically it's saying in that very night, right? Not that. It's saying that very night. It's being very specifically to that night. Vayehi, and it again, like we had before, davar, right? This is the other way of saying to say, right? Dalet bet resh, very common root. Havaya, that this is in the noun construct form of it. So it's in a construct with havaya, with the tetragrammaton. So the word of God. El is the preposition with the aleph, not ayin. Natan is his name. Le'emor, so prepositional lamed and the infinitive of to say, right? Saying. Okay, this is a pretty common thing. And emor is written bechisaron as normal. It's written without above. Okay, let's see how this gets translated. King James. And it came to pass that night. I personally, I would probably translate that very night, that the word of the Lord came unto Nathan, saying, okay, NIV. But that night the word of the Lord came to Nathan, saying, okay, and Chabad, and it came to pass on the same night that the word of God was to Nathan, saying, and I'm really wondering what this Rashi says, so I'm gonna go into it. Rabbi Hanina ben Papa said, the Holy One, blessed be He, as he said to Nathan, this man that I am sending you to is hasty. Perhaps he will hire workers, and I will find myself incurring him loss. Hurry and tell him it is not you who will build the house. Okay, Rabbi Simon said, um, this man that I am sending you to is want to make vows, just as it is stated how he swore unto the Lord and vowed unto the mighty one of Jacob, I will if I will enter the tent which is my house in Psalm 122. Perhaps he will say, I will not eat nor will I drink until I do build the temple, and I will find myself incurring him loss. So both of them are basically saying they're Nathan is kind. God is worried about David. Interesting. I'm wondering which midrash. It sounds like it's a midrash and might be from the Talmud, but it doesn't say here where Rashi got that from. I'm guessing it's probably from the Talmud. Got it. Okay. Next verse. Lech va'amarta el avdi el David ko amar Havaya ha'ata tivne li bait leshivti. Interesting. Okay. Lech means to go, like we had before in the command form. Ve'amarta, and you shall say. Right. So this is in the conjunctive. This has a conjunctive of. It's in the perfect form of to say. Right. Amarta. But it's getting flipped in context. Go and say. Right. And you will say basically. El is the preposition with the aleph. Avdi. So the root here is ayin bet daled, which means to serve. Um, Eved is servant or slave. Avdi means my servant or my slave. El David, to David, right? Preposition with the aleph again. Um, Ko, thus, it's an adverb. So, ko amar is something that shows up a lot in the Bible. This is how was said, right? God said. Ko amar. Um, Amar is the perfect form, very common of to say. Havaya, the tetragrammaton. So this is where it gets interesting. Ha'ata. So this is a way we start a question in Hebrew. Is it's kind of like a question mark to put an article at the beginning of a sentence, right? Um, so is it ha'ata? And ata is just the pronoun second person masculine singular, right? So if the sentence was ata tivne, right? You will build. It would be like this: ata tivne. Ha'ata tivne is a question. Is it that you will build? Right. So this is turning it a question. Um, are you right? Are you the one who's going to build me? Well, we'll see how they translate it. Tivne, the root here is bet nun hey, which means to build, and tivne, it's in the imperfect um, second person masculine singular. Li, for me, right? Prepositional lamet. Bait, a house, right? Bait, this is the actual non-construct form. We see bait in construct form so much. It's kind of weird to see bait for first time not in construct form. Let shivti. So same root, yashav, right? Yes, yud shin bet, but it's well, they're saying it's in the in infinitive, leshivti, for my, yeah, for me to dwell in, for, yeah, I mean, the tough and the yud at the end is the first person common singular, right? For me to sit, right? Leshevet, right? For me to sit. Leshivti, for my sitting, for my dwelling, I guess. Okay, let's see what King James does. Go and tell my servant David, um, thus said the Lord, shalt thou build me an house for me to dwell in? Okay. Um, NIV. Go and tell my servant David, this is what the Lord says. Are you the one who to build me a house to dwell in? Okay. Let's see what Chabad does with it. Go and say to my servant, to David. See, I like that better because it has the two twos, right? It says le avdi, le David, right? So to my servant, to David. Um, well, it says El Abdi El David, right? So to my servant, to David. So says the Lord, shall you build me a house for my dwelling? Yeah, I mean, I would translate it how Chabad does it. Okay. Verse 6, Ki lo yashavti bebayit lemiyom haloti et bnei Israel mimitzrayim va'ad hayom hazeh va'ehye mithalech be'ohel uv mishkan. Interesting. Okay. Ki, conjunction for, right? Because. Lo, it means no. Yashavti, so again, same root, Yud Shin Bet. This is in the Kal Perfect, first person common singular. I dwelt, right? And it's a little interesting to me that this is that this is in the perfect form. But bait, in a house, right? Prepositional bet, bait, means house. There is no article. Lemiyom. So prepositional lamed mem. Prepositional mem. Yom means day. They're translating as time. Lemiyom. It's kind of hard for me to translate since the time is right. Lemiyom. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how often this shows up, but in this particular form, I would be interested to see other places where this exact form is used. Let me see if the concordance has that. Lemiyom. So you'll see down here they have all the various places. Unfortunately, it is in the transliteration, but lemiyom, right, shows up 3 times in the Bible in this exact same form, right? Lemiyom, lemiyom, lemiyom. Once in Judges 19:30, once here, and once in Isaiah 7:17. Interesting. I mean, you might want to look there as well. Okay. Ha'aloti. The root here is ayin lamed hey. Kind of expected the vav to be there in ha'aloti, right? This is the hefil. They're saying hefil in infinitive. Ha'aloti. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So ole means to rise, to go up, to bring up. Here it's in the hefil in the causative. So that I caused to come up, and generally whenever we talk about going to the land of Israel, in Hebrew we refer to as going up, and leaving Israel is going down, right? Ha'aloti, right? I caused to bring up, I brought up, right? Et is the direct object marker. Bnei Israel, right? And this is the construct form, that the sons, the children of Israel, right? Common construct form. Mi Mitzrayim, so prepositional mem, Mitzrayim meaning Egypt. The ad, so ad is a preposition that doesn't translate very well to English. And even to, I guess, and up to, um, it has it has more of a complete sense, right? When you say ad hayom, usually it means till today, right? And it's a more complete to than we're used to using the same um, to in English. Ha-yom, it's day with an article, but when you put an article on yom, it means today, right? Hazeh, hayom hazeh, right? Again, just like before, it's saying this same day, right? It's being very specific at today. Va'ehyeh, so conjunctive vav, ehyeh, possibly one of the most famous Hebrew words ever. Right? This is the precise same word that um, that God said to Moses, "And I will be as I will be." Right? Ehyeh asher ehyeh. Right? It's the first person common singular of the imperfect of the verb to be. Okay. Mithalech. So this is in the hitpael. It's in the uh, reflexive form. In the participle, right? In present tense of halicha, right? Like we said, lech. Hey lamed chaf means to go. Mithalech. Also, I mean, in Genesis, right, it says God was going, right? So this is in the reflexive form. Move about, going. Yeah, okay. Bet ohel. So prepositional bet. Ohel means a tent as usual. There's no vav there. Uv mishkan. In a tent and in a tabernacle. So conjunctive of prepositional bet, mishkan comes from the root shin chaf nun, which means to dwell. Shachen is a neighbor, but we also refer to the Shekhinah, right, which is the divine presence, the Holy Ghost. And a mishkan is a place, right? We use the word mishkan, right, for the tabernacle, and we use mikdash, right, Beit Mikdash, as a place of holiness. That comes from the root kof dalid shin, right, kadosh, and kadosh more means to be set apart. Mishkan is closer, kind of closer to the people, right? Okay, so let's see how that's getting translated. Whereas I have not dwelt in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, even to this day, but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. Not so happy with that. Let's see NIV. I have not dwelt in a house from the day I brought the Israelites up out of Egypt to this day. I have been moving from place to place with a tent as my dwelling. Very figurative, but I do like it better than the King James. Let's see what Chabad does with this one. For I have not dwelt in a house from the day that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt to this day, but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. Okay. Okay. And you can read the Rashis if you like, but I am going to stop myself. Bechol asher hithalachti bechol bnei Israel hadavar dibarti et achad shivtei Israel asher tziviti lirot et ami et Israel le'emor lama lo benitem li beit arazim. Interesting. Okay. So prepositional bet, whole means all, right? Asher is the pronoun relative. Hithalachti, so this is the perfect of the same reflexive noun, right? Reflexive verb of halacha, right? To go, right? And it's in the perfect of the reflexive of that, right? Just like the previous sentence. Bechol b'nei Israel. So prepositional bet, they're translating with. Okay. I might have wanted to do more among because bet is usually a preposition of in. Whole meaning all. Bnei Israel, right? Same construct we had before, the children of Israel. Hadavar dibarti, right? So this davar, just like we had before, means a word. Hadavar with the article, although, like I said before, it can be a mark of a question. Here, I would have translated it the word, right? And I might even have capitalized the word, right? We'll see how it gets translated. Hadavar dibarti, the word I spoke, right? Dibarti, there's the repetition is an emphasis, right? So this is it. Same root is being used twice, right? I spoke the word. That's how I would probably translate it. It's in the perfect, right? Dibarti, first person common singular. Et is the so they're saying it's the preposition et as opposed to the direct object marker. Dibarti et achad shiftei Israel. I guess, yeah. Speak isn't really a verb transitive, so I guess it does make sense to say to. That's et as a preposition, not a direct object marker. Achad meaning one, shiftei Israel, and this is one big construct. Achad shiftei Israel, right? Shevet shin bet tet actually means staff, right? Shivtecha u'mashantecha hema yenachamuni. Your rod and your staff will comfort me. But shvatim, right, are tribes, right? The 12 tribes of Israel, shvatim. And this is in the construct form with Israel, right? So the tribes of Israel. Asher tziviti lirot. Asher is the pronoun relative. Tziviti, the root here is the same root as mitzvah, tzadik vav hey, which means to command, right? Tziviti, I commanded, I ruled, I guess. Maybe tziviti lirot. Lirot, this is prepositional element, the infinitive of ro'eh, right, which means shepherd, resh ayin hey, and it does have that vav there, which I guess is normal. Asher tziviti lirot. Interesting. It's like, which I commanded to shepherd, to guide, maybe, right? Et here is a direct object marker. Ami, means people. Ami is my people. Et is the direct object marker again. Israel, right? Israel. Le'emor, to say. We had this prepositional lamed and infinitive of emor just a little bit before. Lama is an interrogatory. Why? Lo, right? Not benitem, right? So this is from the root bet nun he, which means to build. Benitem means you built, right? It's in the second person masculine plural. Benitem. Li, prepositional lamed for me. Beit Arazim. So just like David said, a house of cedar, here it's saying Beit Arazim, a house of cedar, right? Same construct as we had before. Yeah. Huh. Well, let's see how it's getting translated. Okay. 2 Samuel 7:7. In all the places wherein I have walked with all the children of Israel, spake I a word with any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people Israel. Translating lirot, to feed. Saying, why build ye not me an house of cedar? NIV. Wherever I have moved with all the Israelites, did I ever say to any of their rulers, I guess that's how they're translating shiftei. Right? Echad shiftei Israel, one of the tribes. So I guess they're translating this shiftei as leaders, right? Moved without. Did I ever say to any of their rulers, whom I commanded to shepherd my people Israel, why have you not built me a house of cedar? Yeah, so they're translating Echad Shivtei Israel, one of the tribes of Israel, to one of the leaders, I guess, of the tribes of Israel. Let's see what Chabad does with this. 7. In all the places wherein I have walked with all the children of Israel, did I speak a word with any of the rulers of Israel, so they're translating the same way, whom I commanded to shepherd my people Israel, saying, why do you not build me a house of cedar? Why? Yeah. Let's see. Chabad here. It is in Hechataf and Patach, and the Daled is weak. Have I spoken? Did I speak? Did I speak a word to whom I commanded? Hadavar. Oh, right. So Hadavar here. So Rashi is saying that the Hadavar is in the interrogative form. And the Dalet is weak. So that's why they translated, did I speak a word? So they're translating according to Rashi that the question actually starts here. Have I spoken? Hadavar dibarti et bnei Israel et echad shiftei Israel. Yeah, so the Rashi is saying that the question starts earlier. That's not the impression I had, right? Bnei Israel hadavar dibarti et Bnei Israel. Um, and he's going off the nikudim. He's going off the vocalization, which uh, I dare say he tends to know better than I do. So whether you want to start the question there in the sentence or not, that's something you're going to have to decide. Let's keep on going. Next verse. Va'ata ko tomar la'avdi leDavid ko amar havaya tzvakot ani lekachticha min hanave ma'achar hatson lihyot nagid al ami al Yisrael. Okay. So conjunctive verb ata means right now, right? Et is a time. Ata is right now, right? Therefore, now they're translating ko, like we had before. Tomar, you shall say, right? This is in the imperfect second person masculine singular. Tomar, le avdi, to my servant, right? So previously we had el avdi el David, and here we have le avdi le David, right? So again, just like previously, it's saying to my servant, to David. That's how I would translate it with the prepositional lamed. Ko amar, this is how said, right? We had before. Havaya tzvakot, right? So now we are actually saying the Lord of Hosts, right? This is the Tetragrammaton, followed by the Shem Tzvakot, right? Which is usually translated as hosts, really means armies, right? However you want to translate that. Ani, right? So this is I in the less formal way. Lakachticha. So the root here, lakachat, is it lamed kaf? This is always a hard one for me because it's so commonly used, and it's used over almost 1,000 times in the Bible, and the lamed at the beginning falls off so much. So lakachti, right? I took, right? It's in the perfect first person common singular. Lakachticha, I took you, second person masculine singular, right? Min means from. Hanave, so they're saying sheepfold. Nave is, I believe, a cliff. Abode of shepherd or flocks, a habitation. A meadow in Hosea 9:13. Habitation. Sheepcote, stable. Interesting. Nava comes from Nava, which means beautiful. Kind of want to say a height, right? Maybe place where you can see a vista, maybe. But yeah, they're translating it as sheepfold. Ma'achar, so prepositional mem, achar meaning behind, right? After, following, right? Achar hatson, right? So he was a shepherd, obviously. Hatson. That's the article hey son written without above. Sheep, flock, right? You can use your concordance there. Lihiot, right? That's the prepositional lamed. Hiot being the infinitive of to be, right? Lihiot, so that you may be. Nagid. So nagid, it comes from the root hey gimel dalet, right? Like haggadah, right? To say or to reach. a nagid is somebody who is a ruler. It's used many times in the Bible. You can use your concordance, but it's a specific type of word for ruler. Al is the preposition with the ayin. Ami, my people, which we had just right now. Al Israel, preposition with the ayin again, and Israel, common word. Okay, let's see what King James says. Now, therefore, so shalt thou say unto my servant David, thus said the Lord of hosts, I took thee from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be ruler of my people over Israel. Okay. Now then, tell my servant David, this is what the Lord Almighty, that's how they're translating Hashem Tzvakot, says, I took you from the pasture, from tending the flock. Yeah, Achar Hatzon, yeah, I can understand that. And they're translating Nave as a pasture. And appointed you ruler over my people Israel. Let's see what Chabad does. Verse 8. And now, so shall you say to my servant, to David, right? And they did the same thing as before because it has two twos in here, right? Thus says the Lord of hosts. So Hashem Tzvakot. I took you from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be a leader over my people Israel. And Rashi is explaining that Naveh here is like, excuse me, in Sephania 2:6. What does Sephania 2:6 say? Right, Sephania 2. V'haya chevel l'sherita beit Yehuda alehem Yir'un bebate Ashkelon. Oh, no, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. V'haita chevel hayam nevot karot ro'im v'gidrot tzon. So Rashi is saying that nevot here is the same here. Interesting. Okay. I think we spent enough time on Naveh. Okay. And you can, of course, use the concordance there as well. Okay. Verse 9. Ve'ehyeh imcha bechol asher halachti ve'achrita et kol oivecha mipanecha v'asita lecha shem gadol keshem hagedolim asher ba'aretz. Okay. Ve'ehyeh, again, like we said before, and I will be, right? Same word with a conjunctive vav at the beginning, so it gets flipped. Imcha, right? So this is with you, right? Second person masculine singular. Bechol, prepositional bet, chol, meaning all. Asher is the pronoun relative. Halachti, I went, right? So this is the call form, not the reflexive form, but the simple form of to go, right? Halachta. And it's in the second person masculine singular, as you went, right? Achrita. So the root here is chaf resh taf, which means to cut, right? And it's in the imperfect acharita. It's in the hefil. I would have expected a yud there. It's not there. And the hey at the end This morphology is saying third person feminine singular. I don't believe so. I believe that that's actually the paragogic hey, which kind of puts an emphasis on there. Yeah, that hey. I did not expect that hey. I did expect a yud. It's different, right? And so to cut can mean to cut off, but it can also we say kritat brit, right? To cut a covenant, to make a covenant, right? Achrita et, that's the direct object marker. Kol meaning all. Oivecha, right? Like we spoke before about in the first verse, your enemies, right? Second person masculine singular. Mi panecha, from before you, right? Prepositional mem. Panim literally means face. Pone means to turn. Mi panecha means from before you, in front of you, right? Second person masculine singular. The asita, so conjunctive vav, this is la asot in the perfect, right? It's to make or to do, like we had before. Ain samech, sin, hey, sorry. And it's in the perfect, but I mean, whether or not you flip it is up to the context. I would, although they aren't. So yeah, you have to decide in context whether or not the tense is being flipped by that vav there. Lecha, prepositional lamed, second person masculine singular. Shem means name. Gadol means great or large, and here is written with a vav, bemilui. Keshem, so prepositional chaf, shem meaning name, so like the name, although there's no article here, but shem hagedolim is in one construct, so the article should go on the last noun. Gedolim here is just like gadol, but here gedolim means great men, great people, and it's written without a vav, bechisaron. Asher is the pronoun relative. The pronoun is being used as the present tense of the verb to be. Ba'aretz, in the land. They're saying on the earth, but haaretz with the article. So this has a prepositional bet and an article on aretz. When we speak about haaretz, the land, we talk about the land of Israel. So yeah, let's see how it's getting translated. And I was with thee whithersoever thou wentest, and have cut off all thine enemies out of thy sight, and have made thee a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Not a huge fan of that. NIV, I have been with you wherever you have gone, and I have cut off all your enemies from before you. Now I will make your name great. Like, see, so they're not flipping that, right? Like the names of the greatest men on earth. The greatest, yeah, Shem Hagedol. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Chabad. And I have been with you wherever you have gone, and I have cut off all your enemies from before you, and have made you a great name, like the name of the great ones that are in the earth. So Chabad is flipping it. And I'm not gonna do the Rashis. You can take a look at them if you like. Because we'll be here forever. Verse 10. Vesamti makom la'ami le'Israel in untativ vashachan tachtav, velo yirgaz od, velo yosifu bnei avla la'anoto ka'asher barishona. Interesting. Okay, let's see what he means. Okay, the samti makom. So the root is sin vav mem lasum, to put, right? Samti means I put. So it has a conjunctive vav at the beginning. So you have to decide if it's being flipped, which I would say it is, to from the perfect to the imperfect. Makom means place. Le'ami, so prepositional lamed, meaning people, ami meaning my people, le'Israel, to prepositional lamed, to Israel. Unetativ, so the root here is nun tet ayin, which means to plant, right? Right, yeah. And I have planted it, right? Meaning the people, right? That's how I would. Netati means I have planted. It's the imperfect. Um, they're saying it's getting flipped by the conjunctive vav at the beginning to will plant, right? And then tiv means it, right? Referring, I would say, to the people, right? I have planted my people, right? Veshachan tachtav. So conjunctive vav, like we said, mishkan, right, is tabernacle. This is from the same root, shin chaf nun, to dwell, or we refer to the Holy Spirit as the Shekhinah, right? Veshachan, so it's conjunctive vav, whether or not you want to say that that's getting flipped in context. So it's in the first person, masculine singular. I'm guessing it's going off of ami. I'm gonna say that everything is going off of ami because that makes the most sense to me. Tachtav. Under it. Tachtav. Tachat means under or instead, right? V'shachan tachtav. I put a place for my place, and they that they may dwell in their own place. V'shachan tachtav. I'm not sure a place of their own is the best way of translating that. We'll see how they translate it. V'shachan tachtav. I'm not sure how to translate that, but let's see. Velo yirgaz od. So conjunctive vav, lo means not. Yirgaz, the root here is resh gimel zayin, which means anger. To be agitated, quiver, quake, be excited, perturbed. Ragaz. So I don't like this because Strong's is turning this into multiple roots, which they're saying are like so many different things, and it's like, no, you're trying to be a concordance. Please don't turn this into like 7269 through 7264. Yeah, from 64 to 69 are all what I would say the same root, and Strong's Concordance is numbering them differently. I do not like that. So if you're going to look at it, I would look at all of those. Um, your God's okay, so shouldn't be moved. Um, I mean, I understand why they're translating it as moved, but there is a certain fear there, right? The reges means anger. So you can look at the concordance if you like. Od meaning any more, right? Written with a vav as usual. Velo yosifu. So conjunctive of lo meaning not. Yosifu. The root is yud sin. Sorry, samech pei. Just like Yosef, right? Joseph means to add. Um, yeah, and we talked about that a bit. Yosifu, they shall not. So this is the Hefil. Lo Yosifu, they shall not continue to. They shall not anymore. It's a common expression. Um, it's in the third person masculine singular. Um, Bene Avla, the sons of Avla, and they're translating Avla. So this is a construct form, right? Ben means sons, banim means sons, bene is the construct form of son. There is no article there on avla um, or on banim, so uh, I wouldn't put a the there. Avla, they're translating as wickedness. Um, Injustice, unrighteousness. Um, yeah, you can look at the concordance there. It shows up 53 times. I don't know if it shows up in the same way. Avla, 21 occurrences of Avla. Bene Avla, right? So 2 Samuel 3:34. It's in well, um, right. So more than a few times it's Ben Allah, right? Um, you can use your concordance there. Um, I'm interested to see what the cognates here are. Evel, Leviticus 19:15, sorry. Oh, right. Lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat, right? Yeah, you shall not do injustice. If you want to know exactly what this word means, I would compare it to Leviticus 19:15. Okay, so Bene Avla. La'anoto. So this is from Inui. Ayin nun he, like ta'anit is a fast, right? It comes from the same root. La'anot means to oppress. Yeah, that's right. Um, uh, so velo yosifu bene avla la'anoto, right? It's prepositional lamed is the infinitive of oppress. So the children of avla, of wickedness, of injustice, will not will not oppress them anymore. Ka'asher, so prepositional chaf, asher is the pronoun relative, bar rishona. So prepositional bet with the article, rishona. So it's funny, I was just discussing this with somebody else. So Bereshit, right? the first word in Genesis is in construct form. This is how you would say at the beginning. This is what you would have expected the word to be in Genesis, Barishona, right, in the beginning. It is written Chaser Yod Milui Vav Barishona, in the beginning, right? I would probably translate this in the beginning. Yeah. Probably not at first, but okay, at first. Um, yeah, let's see how this is being translated. 710. Moreover, I will appoint. So they're saying it's all in the future. A place for my people Israel, and will plant them that they dwell in a place of their own and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more as before time. I don't like as before time. Let's see, NIV. And I will provide a place for my people Israel, and I will plant them so that they can have a home of their own and no longer be disturbed. Wicked people will not oppress them anymore as they did at the beginning. Let's see what Chabad does with this. And I will appoint a place for my people, for Israel, and I will plant them, and they will dwell in their own place and be disturbed no more. And the wicked people shall not continue to afflict them as formerly. V'shachan tachtav. Interesting. This doesn't translate very well, honestly. Like the word shachan tachtav, netativ, yirgaz, it has a different flavor in the Hebrew than I think you can really give it in the English, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, verse 11. Ulamin hayom asher tziviti shoftim al ami Israel v'hanichoti lecha mikol oivecha v'higid lecha havaya ki bait ya'aseh lecha havaya. Okay. So conjunctive of prepositional lamed, meaning from, right? Here they're translating it since because it goes on the day, right? With the article hayom, the day. Asher is the pronoun relative. Tziviti, right, comes from tzadik vav hey, right, to command, like we just had. Shoftim, the root is shin pei tet, which means to judge, right? The shoftim are the judges, right? Like the book of Judges. Al is the preposition with the ayin. Ami, my people, Israel, v'hanichoti. So this is conjunctive vav. This is the same root as in the first verse, nun vav chet, and it's in the hifil with milui yud chisaron vav v'hanichoti lecha, and I gave rest, caused to rest. It's the same. It's the same one in verse 1. Right, and they're saying it's not, because this is in the perfect, they're saying it's not being flipped, right? Lecha, to you, right? Mikol oivecha. So is God talking back? I think God is talking to David again. Lecha, prepositional lamed, second person masculine singular. Mikol, from all, right? Prepositional mem. Oivecha, just like we had before, your enemies, right? Vehigid, right? So it's the same root as nagid, right? A ruler, right? But this, I mean, it's in the he fill form, um, of, has a conjunctive vav, so it may or may not be um, flipped. Um, third person masculine singular, right? To you, God. So God says to you, right? The tetragrammaton, lecha is prepositional lamed, second person masculine singular. Ki is the conjunction for because that. Um, ולמין היום אשר תהיתם על עמי ישראל והניחותי לך מכל אוהביך והגיד לך הוויה כי בית יעשה לך הוויה. Huh. So God said to you that God will make a house for you. Interesting. So kind of like God saying, "Hey, what do you mean you want to make me a house? I'm gonna make you a house." Yeah, you know, interesting. Right. Havaya, obviously, the tetragrammaton. Ki, because. Bait means house. Yaaseh, right? It's in the imperfect of to make or to do. Ein sin hey, right? And it's not to build; it's will make, right? Lecha for you. Havaya. So the tetragrammaton. So God's like saying, I said I'll make you a house. Why are you making me a house? Let's see how King James, what they do with it. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused thee to rest from all thine enemies, also the Lord telleth thee that he will make thee an house. Okay. NIV, and have done ever since the people, the time I appointed leaders, and there's a note, over my people Israel, I will also give you rest from all your enemies. The Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish a house for you. So they're starting a quote there, a new paragraph there, in mid-verse, which I can understand, kind of. Let's see what the note says. Traditionally, judges, shoftim, right, is judges. Okay. Okay, let's see what Chabad does here. 11. And even from the day that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and I will give you rest from all your enemies. And the Lord has told you that the Lord will make you a house. And I'm not going to do the Rashis. I'm not going to do the Rashis. Okay. Ki yimlu yamecha v'shachavta et avotecha v'hakimoti et azaracha acharecha asher yetze mimecha v'hachinoti et mamlachto. Interesting. Okay, ki because, right? When, I guess, yeah, it's a conjunction. Yimelu. So the root here is mem lamed aleph, which means full, right? So will become full. This is in the imperfect third person masculine plural because of days, right? Milui yamim, right? The filling of your days, meaning living a long life, right? Yamecha, your days, right? Veshachavta, so the root is shin chaf bet, which means to lie down. Sometimes it does, in fact, have a sexual connotation as well. But sometimes it's talking about dying, right? Shochnei afar, the people who well, that's shochen. but people who lie in the dust, right? So shachavta, it means you will die here, but you rest, you lie down, right? They're saying it's the preposition, which I agree. Um, Not the direct object marker. Avotecha, av means father, avot means fathers, avotecha means your fathers. This is written bechisaron vav, which is a little surprising to me. Vahakimoti, um, so the root here is quf vav mem, which means to rise. Here it is in the hefil and it's in the causative, and I will set up. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Written without a vav again. Kind of expected it with the yod without the vav. Kind of did expect a vav there. But I will establish, right? Oftentimes hakimoti gets translated as establish or set up, right? Et is the direct object of marker. Zaracha, so zera, zayin, resh, ayin means seed, right? Zaracha is your seed, and zera is always in the singular. It's never in the plural. Acharecha, after you. Okay. Yeah. Like we said, achar hatzon, right after the sheep, right? But acharecha here means after you, second person masculine singular. Asher is the pronoun relative. Yetse, right? So the root here is yud tzadik aleph, which means to come out of, right? Um, yeah, it's in the call imperfect. Shall come out, will come out. Yeah. Yetzia. Let me just. Yeah. Yud Tzadi Aleph. Mimecha, right? Ma'im are intestines, right? So it's saying your body, but really internal organs, right? Me'eh, inward part belly, bowels, right? Intestines, whatever. Yeah. You get the picture. Mimecha, right? Vahachinoti. So this is the root here is kivun. Chaf vav nun, I believe it is. It is. Haha, I got it right. And it's in the hefil. It's in the causative. So kivun means kind of. So a kavana is an intention, right? Kivun means kind of to turn, establish. Establish is, I mean, I understand now why they translated hakimoti as I will set up, because hakinoti is more properly establish. And kind of like hachana means to make ready, right? Yeah, you can use your concordance further if you like, but yeah, this is kivun. It's in the hefil causative conjunctive perfect because there's a vav, and um, they're saying it's getting flipped, which I understand. Et is the direct object marker. Mamlachto, so this comes from the same root as king, right? Mem lamed chaf. Mamlechet is a kingdom, right? Like it says, you shall be a mamlechet kohanim, a kingdom of priests, right? Mamlachto, his kingdom. Yeah. See how this is getting translated. King James, and when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. Okay. NIV. When your days are over, I would say filled. And you rest with your ancestors. Yeah, that's fine. I will raise up your offspring. I would do your seed to succeed you. To succeed you. Acharecha. Yeah, after you. To succeed you. Right. Okay. Okay. I'll take that. Your own flesh and blood. That's a very figurative translation. I understand it, but still. And I will establish his kingdom. Let's see what Chabad does with this. Uh, when your days are finished, and you shall lie with your forefathers, then I will raise up your seed, and that shall proceed from your body after you, and I will establish his kingdom. Yeah, I mean, you have to decide how literal you want to be there. Okay. Hu yivne bait lishmi vechonanti et kis'e mamlachto ad olam. So pronoun third person masculine singular, he, right, referring to the child. Yivne, right, that's the imperfect of bet nun he, which means to build, right? Third person masculine singular. Bait, right, a house. Le shmi, to my name, for my name, right? Vechonanti, so this is similar to so they're actually saying it's the same. So they're saying it's that same one, whereas I'm kind of on the Chaf Nun Nun is its own similar, related, but not exactly the same root, I would say. I mean, you have to decide if you believe that the root is the exact same Chaf Vav Nun. I mean, you can use the constructor if you like, right? If you're gonna say that Chaf Nun Nun, and here we're saying that this is in the PL, like Konanti PL. So let's take a look. PL. So, so okay. So the PL would be Kinanti in the perfect. What is Kinanti? Not Konanti. They're saying it's actually Chaf Vav Nun. Let's look at that in the constructor as well. See, it's so this would be Kivanti. Yeah, I kind of like mine better than theirs. They're obviously they're related and similar. You can play around with that if you would like. Okay, Vechonanti, right? I want to say it's Chaf Nun Nun. They're saying it's Chaf Vav Nun. At least Strong's is. Yeah, they're obviously related, but I would say it's slightly different personally. Et is the direct object marker. Kis'e is a throne or a seat. And it's used a lot. Mamlachto. So, like we had in the previous one, his kingdom. Ad, meaning until, preposition. Olam, meaning ever. And olam is, as always, written with a vav. And kisei, as normal, is written without a yud. Okay. Let's see how this is getting translated. Verse 13. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. Okay. NIV, he is the one who will build a house for my name, and they capitalized name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. Okay. I mean, I think it's pretty clear what it means. Chabad, he shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. Yeah, I mean, it's clear what it means. I guess the real question is how you get there. Okay. Ani ehye lo la'av v'haya v'hu yeh li leven asher behavoto v'hochachto tiv v'hochachtiv b'shevet anashim uv'nik'ei b'nei adam. Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. I'm going to have to talk about with Sam Adams about this verse. It might be a not so... I'm going to have to talk to Sam Adams about this verse in the Trinity. Okay. Ani means I. It's a little less formal. Ehyeh, right? Like we had before, I will be, right? Lo, for him. Le'av, as a father, right? Prepositional lamed, av meaning father. Vehu yihyeh li leven. Conjunctive of. Who is the pronoun? Third person masculine singular. Yihyeh is the conjugation of the verb to be. Li means for me. Leven, as a son. He shall be for me a son. Right? Prepositional lamed bed. Asher. So this is the pronoun relative. That which. Behavoto. So the root here is avon, ayin vav hey, right? Bend, twist, means sin. And yeah. You can look at your concordance there. They're saying it's in the Hifal. I would agree with that. Behavoto. He commits iniquity. Behavoto. In his sin, in his iniquity, right? Vehochachtiv. So, tochacha, right, is chastisement. Hey chaf het, to chastise, right? It says, Hocheach tocheach et amitecha, you shall surely chastise your people, right? It's in the Hefil, right? The vav's not there, which okay. There is a conjunctive vav. It's in the conjunctive perfect, so you have to decide whether or not it's getting flipped from the perfect or not. But hochacha beshevet, with a rod, right? That's it's. I mean, it's common enough in the Bible, right? Like we said, the shiftecha u'meshentecha, right? Beshevet, with the rod, or like we said before, right? Shevet also means tribe, right? But with prepositional bet, right? With the rod. Um, Anashim beshevet anashim. So shevet is in the construct form with a rod of men. Interesting. There's no article there. And I shall chastise him with a rod of men. I shall use human beings to chastise him. Basically, that's what it's saying, right? It's in a construct form, shevet and anashim. I'm not sure I've ever seen shevet anashim. Shevet anashim. I mean, shevet anashim. I almost want to go looking for shevet anashim if there's any places where that particular it's because the words are actually pretty common. Yeah, anashim shows up 2,000 times. Might be hard to find shevet anashim. You know what? I want to go to Sefaria and look up shevet anashim. Shevet anashim. And see what they come up with. Because that's a really interesting construct. No. Oh, silly me. I spelled shevet wrong. Shevet anashim. Right. Now let's see what it says. No. Shiftechem anashim chachamim. No, that's not. Anashim ish achad leshevet. No, shevet. 2 Samuel 7:14. No. Anashim Shevet. That's such an interesting term. Let me see. I want to check to see if on any of the commentaries talk about Shevet Anashim. Let's see what the Malbim says. בשבט אנשים, רצה לומר בשבט שמכים בו את האנשים, לא בשוט לסוס. I don't like that. He's saying it's a rod for people as opposed to a rod for horses. No, that doesn't seem right to me. Sharbit, he doesn't say anything. He doesn't know how much I don't even see let's see what the Radak says. Beshevet Anashim. כמו שמסרים בני אדם, בניהם בשבט, והנגו אותם בשבט מוסר, לא להמיתם, כמו שאמר תכנו בשבט לא ימות, ואל ימיתו את אל תישא נפשך לפיכך. אמר, אני אהיה לו לאב, והוא יהיה לו לבן, ואוכיחנו אהבתו, כמו שמסר האב את בנו, ולא ישאסיר חסדי ממנו, כמו שעשיתם לשאול, שלקחתי ממנו המלכות יהיה לבניו עד עולם. He's also saying that it's just Shevet Anashim is saying lightly, right? I'm not going to kill him. ואמרו בשבט אנשים זה הדד ורזון בן אלידה שנאמר ויקם השם שטן לשלמה ובניגי בני אדם אלו המזיקים שטרדוהו ממלכתו כמו שאמרו שמדי וטרדו בני אדם כי אמרו כי נולדו מהאדם הראשון באותו שנה שפירש מאשתו. No, I mean the commentaries aren't really convincing me. I don't know. That's a very interesting. I mean, this verse. I'm gonna have to. I'm going to have to talk to people about this verse because it's very interesting. Let's see how it gets. Let's finish first of all. B'shavet anashim. Uvnigay, right? So conjunctive of, prepositional bet. Nigayim are, they're translating as blows. Nega nun gimel ayin means to touch, but when we talk about negayim, we usually mean plagues, right? Yeah. Well, I would have assumed this means an infection, like here in Leviticus 13:5. Right? V'negaim uv'nigei b'nei adam. And again, so anashim and b'nei adam, right? So a ben adam means a person, son of man. I really have to talk to Sam about this verse. The blows of the sons of man, or human blows, human infections, human afflictions. Personally, what it seems to me is that God is kind of saying that he will use people to chastise other people, right? To chastise Israel. But you could also say that it's talking about a rod or blows that are meant for human beings. That this is a really interesting verse. Let's see how it's getting translated. Verse 14, King James. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. Okay. NIV. I will be his father and he will be my son. When he does wrong, I will punish him with a rod wielded by men and with floggings inflicted by human hands. Whew. They took it a certain way. Okay. I will be to him a father, and he will be to me a son, so that when he goes astray, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the sons of Adam. Let's actually read what Rashi says here. Hadad and Rezon of Eliada he's saying Shevet Anashim is talking about those particular people. He's taking it as obviously talking about Solomon. So Nig'ei Bnei Adam. I was reading this in the Metzudat David, and I wasn't sure how to talk about it because how to translate it because he is talking about demons. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into a very demonological thing here, you could, and I just don't want to touch it. It's a very long road to go down. You can look at I think it was the Metzudat David I was looking at, and at Rashi. Uh, this is some verse. Wonder, and is it one of the verses? It's not one of the verses that's read in the lectionary. Interesting. Um, this is a verse I personally would have to come back to because it's saying interesting things. I personally think it's kind of clear that it's not just talking about Solomon, but it may be talking about the Jewish people as a whole. And I could certainly see other people taking other things from here, although it's not very Trinitarian. I need to talk to Sam about this one. Okay. וחסדי לא יסור ממנו כאשר הסירותי מעם שאול אשר הסירותי מלפניך. Okay, it's pretty clear. So, conjunctive vav chesed is usually translated as loving kindness. They're saying mercy here. My chesed, however you want to translate chesed, which shows up many times in the Bible. Lo meaning not, yasur. So the root is samech vav resh, I would say, to take away. So they're saying depart. It's in the call imperfect, yasur. Shall not depart, shall not be taken away, mimenu, from him. Prepositional mem, main meaning of, mimenu means from him. Ka'asher, so prepositional chaf, pronoun relative, as, right? Hasiroti, as I caused to be taken off of, right? This is in the hifal, it's in the causative of same roots. Samech vav resh, I guess the root is. That's what I said before. Samech vav resh, yeah. To turn aside. Hasiroti, I kind of expected this to be written with more miluim, right? With the yud and the vav, it's written lacking, which shouldn't be too surprising, right? Which I took from me'im, So prepositional mem, im meaning with. From is right, but it's the flavor again doesn't translate. Me'im Shaul, Saul, right? That's his name. Asher, pronoun relative. Hasiroti, so again, exact same word as I removed, right? Mil fanecha. So yeah, this Hasiroti, I believe, is going off of Shaul, right? So God took his chesed, his loving kindness, his mercy, from Shaul, who he took from being before before David, milfanecha, right? Yeah, milfanecha, prepositional mem, prepositional lamed, panecha, right? Let's see how this is getting translated. Verse 15. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away from thee, away before thee. Okay. NIV. But my love will never be taken away from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I removed from before you. Yeah, I mean, this same taking away is used 3 times, and it just doesn't translate very well to do it over and over again in the English. But my mercy shall not depart from him, as I withdrew it from Saul, whom I removed from before you. Right. Okay. Let us keep on going. Verse 16. V'ne'eman beitecha umamlachtecha ad olam lefanecha kis'echa yihye nachon ad olam. And here is that promise. So ne'eman, the root here is aleph mem nun, right, from emunah and amen, right, to faith, right? It's faith, right, and it's in the nifal, it's in the passive, right? Ne'eman, it is believed, it is faithful, right? When you say someone is a ne'eman, you say that he is somebody who people have faith in, right? They're translating established. I'm not a fan of that. V'ne'eman beitecha, and I would probably translate this, and your house is faithful, or trustworthy, right? Your house is trustworthy, or worthy, yeah. Mamlechtecha. So this is again mamlechet we had before, and here it's in the second person masculine singular. Ad meaning until, or ad olam shows up a lot, forever, right? Lefanecha, before you. So from, how I would translate it is from now on, right? Kis'acha, right? We had throne before, kise, right? This is kis'acha, your throne. Yihyeh, shall be, right? It's in the imperfect third person masculine singular. Nachon, so this is the nifal of chaf vav nun, right? Established. So it's that same root being used over again, and here it's in the nifal, right? It is in the passive. Ad olam, forever, shall be established. Nachon also, it means true, right? In if you ask something in modern Hebrew, people will say nachon, right, correct. Okay. Not a difficult verse to translate. And thine house and thy kingdom will be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. they're using the same word over and over again, even though the Hebrew uses different words. But that's what it means. Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me, and there's a note there. Your throne will be established forever before me. Lefanai, lefanecha. Let's look at the note here. 16. Some Hebrew manuscripts and the Septuagint. Most Hebrew manuscripts, you. Okay, so let's see. The King James, forever before thee. So I guess the NIV is bringing the Septuagint, and apparently there are Hebrew manuscripts which have it that way, but the King James and the Masoretic text are before you. Chabad, and your house and your kingdom will be confirmed forever before you, right? They're translating Ne'eman as confirmed. Okay, I would use trustworthy personally. Your throne shall be established forever. Okay. Next verse. Kechol hadavarim ha'ele uchechol hachizayon hazeh ken diber Natan el David. Okay, so this is a postscript of sorts, I guess. Prepositional chaf, chol meaning all. Ha-devarim, the words, right? This is the plural of devar, right? Which we had before. Ha-ele, these, right? Ha-devarim, ha-ele, both have articles because it's saying these specific words, right? These words that we just talked about, that's exactly uchechol hachizayon hazeh, right? So conjunctive of prepositional chaf, chol meaning all. Chizayon is an image, a vision. So prophecies are like we say Chazon Ovadia, right? Sorry about that. So Chizayon, so like the full vision, like the vision Chizayon. Yeah, the root is Chazan. So, and it's written first Yud is Chaser as it should be. Chizayon with a Milui Vav. Okay. You can use your concordance for Chizayon to find similar places, prophecy or vision, right? Hazeh, both have articles. Just like it said, Hadavarim ha'ele, hachizayon hazeh, right? Similar construction, these particular ones. Chen, so, right? Yes, so. Diber, that's the perfect form, spoke, right? It's a little, diber is the more harsh form of speaking in the Hebrew. Natan is his name. El is the preposition with the aleph. David is his name. And there is a, that samech is a satum. There is a closed break in the scroll as opposed to an open break, which would be so it's kind of like a paragraph marker as opposed to a chapter marker. That's how I would differentiate those two punctuations. Okay, verse 17. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David. This is a long chapter. I might actually split it into two because this is being a very long chapter. And yeah, it only goes, okay. Let's continue for a while and I might actually stop here. Okay, Chabad. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak to David. And I am actually going to split this chapter into two because this is going to be a very long chapter if I keep on going. There's another 12 verses in the chapter. Okay, so this chapter is to be concluded hopefully soon, but as always, I will end with Zephaniah 3:9. Ki az epoch el amim safa berura likro chulam l'shem havaya lo Shchem echad. Therefore, God will restore to all the peoples a pure language, so that everyone will be able to call in God's name and to serve Him together with one accord. Shalom.